WrestleMania 42 Night 2 is now in the books, and we just concluded the main event just seconds ago, and we do have a brand new World Heavyweight Champion, Roman Reigns, defeating CM Punk in a straight-up mano-a-mano match. And I gotta say, I was pleasantly surprised by it. During our predictions and in the podcast leading up to tonight, one of the things I mentioned over and over was my skepticism as to whether or not we were going to get a straight up match here out of Punk and Roman Reigns. I wasn't sure if the match in the ring would be good enough to just do a match with one winner and one loser. With CM Punk bringing up Roman Reigns' family, his inability to win matches without them, his cousins and the bloodline and all of those teases, even with Punk and McAfee going at it a little bit, there was a lot of indicators that we could see some sort of outside interference or somebody coming down to cost one of the men the championship, and we didn't see that. It was actually one man versus another man, and Roman accomplished exactly what CM Punk said that he couldn't accomplish, and he got it done on his own. He won a WrestleMania main event. He won the championship in a big-time match, you know, in a match against a guy that really took him to the limit, and he did it on his own. So that was kind of the story there. I don't really have a major problem with the way that went because of how I think the match really held up. Like, it really was decent. It was solid. And they proved me wrong in a lot of ways in that respect, because I wasn't sure if the match between the ropes would really be that good, and I gotta say it was. These were pros. Punk knows what to do. He knows how to, you know, make the best out of his limitations and whatnot, and this match turned out to be really good. At least I enjoyed it. I don't know what online is saying about it. I haven't even looked at the chat yet to see what you guys are saying. All I know is from my perspective, I did not hate this main event, and I thought it was a better main event than last night. Also, overall, I think Night 2 definitely surpassed Night 1. They were off to a good start right away with the Brock Lesnar and Femi match, and the rest of the card, I felt better than last night. You know, I don't think we're going to come out of tonight's show with as many complaints as we had last night. I think the lackluster show last night, nothing special out of the matches, the lack of wrestling that we got last night, combined with the 4 fucking hours of Applebee's commercials, really turned the fans off. And we've been talking a lot for the past day about how the feeling, the identity of WrestleMania has been completely murdered. So WWE really had to bounce back here, in my estimation, with a solid Night 2. Otherwise, they were going to kill WrestleMania permanently. I mean, next year we're going to be in Saudi Arabia. We're going to be doing all this shit in the morning. So we're not going to have a standard WrestleMania here in the States, at least until 2 more years from now. So if they would have really stunk up the joint tonight and had a really, really, really shitty Night 2, then, you know, I would have felt very bad for, you know, the future of WrestleMania and the future of everything, really. So I'm glad that they were able to deliver in the way that they were able to deliver, and tonight's show was acceptable enough to me where I'm not going to just completely shit on it. So I'm going to read the chat here. Again, like I said, give me your thoughts, your grades. A lot of people are giving it good grades here. I see a lot of Bs, B+, B. Off the top of my head, I haven't had a time to really soak everything yet and analyze it, but I'm going to go a B. I can't give a show like this an A when it's so, you know, ESPN brand synergized and we're having, you know, 5-minute commercial breaks every 20 minutes. The only good thing is that we didn't get any commercial breaks during the matches. You know, that is really where I'm going to draw the line if we ever get to that. Hopefully we will not. So basically it was just in between the matches, you had a whole lot of bullshit to sit through until you got to the next one. So they weren't interrupting, you know, matches in progress with commercials, but they were still, you know, it was just still a very commercial heavy show. And, you know, the identity of Mania is so lost. It's so gone. We talked about this extensively last night, how I really miss the, you know, the in between the matches fun that they would do, the backstage segments, you know, a couple of old rivals coming face to face for the first time in 2 decades, a couple of future WWE stars meeting for the first time, Mae Young banging Mean Gene in a broom closet, all sorts of cool things they used to do. And now they don't do them anymore. And instead, we get Applebee's commercials and Ram truck commercials and all sorts of other stupid shit. So it's really hard for me to ever really, truly enjoy a WrestleMania that's going to be formatted like this. In terms, though, of the main event and tonight's show overall, and the wrestling that we got, to me, was far better than last night, far more entertaining. And most of the matches exceeded or matched, or I should say all of them, exceeded or matched my expectations for it. My expectations were exceeded in the Intercontinental title ladder match and the main event. I think they were matched in Brock and Oba, Demon and Balor, and Jade and Ripley. And I forgot what the fucking other match was. We'll talk about it in a minute. So that was good. 6 matches only is all we got. And I thought it was a better show than last night. So I don't know where this is going to rank in all-time Manias, probably pretty low, but I think WWE is very lucky that they came back with a solid night 2 here. Even though in the main event, as you see, Roman Reigns defeating CM Punk to win the World Heavyweight Championship, I picked CM Punk to retain. I did not do well in my predictions. I think I went 3-3. 3 matches right, 3 matches wrong, and we had 3 title changes. I predicted 0, and all 3 titles changed hands tonight. So I did not do well in my predictions. I let other people influence me. I was, I was doing predictions, and I was kind of hearing some other opinions. I'm like, oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. And I changed a couple of my predictions, and I wish I didn't, because if I would have stuck with my instincts, I would have gone nearly perfect here on all these matches. But in the end, Roman Reigns now being the World Heavyweight Champion, I don't really have a huge problem with. I expected that at some point in his life, he will hold this title because he's never held it before. They're going to want Roman on that title lineage. And now he's champ, and we'll see if he takes it into SummerSlam to perhaps face Gunther, which is where it's looking like it could go right now. Because as we will talk about in a moment, I don't know if that rumored Brock Lesnar and Gunther match or whatever was planned there is going to happen based on what we saw tonight. So we are going to get into all of it here in just 1 second. I want to thank everybody who was here hanging out during the watch along. If you don't mind, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button so we can get those likes up for me. And thanks for sticking around now for the review. We have a lot of super chats coming in. We will get to those in a minute. But I do want to read some of these just grades overall. A lot of B's. I'm seeing B. I'm going to go B. I'm not even going to go B minus, but I'm not going to go B plus either. I'm going to go B because I thought tonight's show at least met my expectations, and that's all I really asked. In terms of what WrestleMania has become and that type of thing. That's out of the hands of the wrestlers. All I can really do is judge the matches in the ring and some of the things we saw, and I thought tonight was a solid B show. Last night was a D, tonight was a B. If you average them out, you're probably looking at a C minus to C plus WrestleMania somewhere in there. But this is your WrestleMania 42 Night 2 review. We are going to go into all the matches here in order. I did want to talk a little bit about Roman Reigns first, since you do see him holding the World Heavyweight Championship here, and him and Punk had a brutal match. Much like Cody and Randy last night, we had some blood in this one, but I really enjoyed the story that the two guys were able to tell on their own, and they did something that I wasn't sure they were able to do, and that is make an acceptable WrestleMania Night 2 main event, just the two of them, with a winner and a loser, and the winner celebrating with pyro. I wasn't sure if that was going to be enough, and it was. It was enough for me anyway. So, unlike, last night, I think it was pretty obvious the show was bad. Maybe some people still didn't love tonight's Night 2, but compared to last night, I feel like tonight was a much better show, and I enjoyed the matches much, much more. So we're going to start all the way at the beginning with the Brock Lesnar and Oba Femi match. Now, this, of course, opened the show, and the first hour of WrestleMania, of course, was on ESPN. So this was, kind of a new thing that WWE is doing. They were on ESPN2 last night, and now with all this integration into ESPN and the type of audience and the casuals WWE is going after, I wasn't too excited about these matches on ESPN because I didn't think they were really going to be booked for us. But this is Oba Femi and Brock Lesnar. Everything that they have done in the build to Oba Femi and Brock Lesnar has been done to perfection. It's one of the only things WWE has done right in this WrestleMania season's build. And Oba answering the challenge of Brock, I think everybody pretty much had the same opinion that Oba Femi needs to win this match, and I 100% agree that he did, but I was nervous, that Brock could still win this, but the way I saw it, it's probably going to be a one-off. So if it's only going to be one match, then why would you even put Femi in this match to lose, you know? So the more and more I thought about it, I was pretty confident in my pick. So now we go to the match. Femi is out first. Brock Lesnar, I believe, comes out second. And you could tell the crowd was really into Oba. They were all doing his strut. They were chanting, Oba, Oba, Oba. So he was the clear fan favorite there. Then Brock makes his way out to the ring with Paul Heyman. And right off the bat, it was kind of Oba dominating. They did the little spot in the corner after a couple of collar and elbow tie-ups. Brock kind of went for a double leg and tackled Oba into the corner. And this is the same thing they did at Survivor Series with Goldberg. Brock tackled Goldberg, and then Goldberg pushed Brock down to his ass. And Femi did the same thing. Now, at Survivor Series, when Brock got back up, he immediately ate a spear, ate another one, then got jackhammered and pinned. But they kind of did the same spot. And for a second, I was thinking that Femi might actually squash Brock Lesnar. But Brock ended up getting the upper hand and then hit a couple of Germans. I believe only 3. So this was not a super crazy suplex city type of thing. He only hit 3 German suplexes on Oba, and then he went for the F5. And he hit a pretty good F5 onto Femi, who fell flat on the mat. And Brock, he didn't go right for the pin because after he hit the F5, he kind of rolled away from Oba, and Oba was almost immediately up to one knee. So I wouldn't really say he no-sold it, but it did not affect him that much. And so I was thinking it was going to be one of those deals where we're going to have, 6 F5 kickouts or whatever. We know how the fans hate that at WrestleMania 34. They didn't shut up about it for a fucking year. So I'm like, oh God, I hope there's not a whole bunch of F5s here. But Oba basically just gets right up from the F5. Brock really doesn't see it because his back is turned, turns around to see Femi staring at him. He's a little bit shocked. Femi then choke slams Brock Lesnar and then picks him up and hits him with his fall from grace power bomb and pins Brock for the win. Huge pop. Everybody was happy as hell about that. And I actually want to look up what the oh shit, no, I don't want to hear myself. No, shut up, Greg. I want to look up the time on Brock and Oba, how long the match went. It felt like it was about 6-ish minutes. Let's see what it says here. What's the official time? 4 minutes and 45 seconds. So almost 5 minutes this match went, and it's exactly the way it should have gone. There should have been no other outcome other than Femi beating Brock Lesnar. So I think a lot of fans were kind of breathing a sigh of relief that this is the way it went, because it's the way it should have went. And then after the match, Brock Lesnar, as you see him there, he sits up in the ring and he proceeds to take his gloves off. Then he takes his boots off to show the Hanes socks, the same one I'm wearing right here. And he leaves them in the ring, and he's sitting there as he's taking his shit off, and he just starts weeping, like unbelievably sobbing in the ring. So it's becoming clear to all of us that Brock Lesnar is in the process of telling us right now that he is retiring, that is his last match. Now, again, they're going to have to cover this. They're going to be talking about it on the post-show. So if any more things happen, please let me know in the chat if this feels like it's storyline-y or something. But it doesn't to me. That felt really genuine. And I know, Polish Joe isn't exactly on everyone's high list right now because of all of his association with the Janelle Grant stuff and whatnot. And I understand that completely. But it was still like hard to watch him sob like that, like, Jesus, this doesn't feel like he's going to come back and do something else, because Gunther, as we know, faced and beat Seth Rollins last night. They referenced on TV that Gunther is doing this. The reason he's doing this is so he is owed a favor, or, Heyman is going to owe him something big, really big. So the minute that Brock Lesnar started taking off his gloves and his boots, I was thinking that this might not be a real retirement. This might be Brock saying he wants to retire, and then Gunther telling Heyman, hey, you promised me this or that, or, I'm cashing in this favor, and now Heyman has got to try to convince Brock to wrestle one more time against Gunther in a retirement match, and then Gunther beats him. But No, we do not need that. If Brock is really retiring this year, then this was the perfect place to do it against the perfect opponent. Gunther is already retired. Goldberg and AJ and Cena. Maybe Brock didn't really want to be on that list. I don't want to be just one of the dudes that Gunther retired. I want something bigger than that, or I want to give my retirement to someone who could maybe benefit from it more. Gunther at this point is just racking up. He's just a retirement collector. He's a belt collector. He doesn't need any more retirements to make him a bigger star. Where Oba being Brock Lesnar's last match and being able to talk about it for years to come. And granted, Brock is still in tremendous shape. Never say never. Money talks sometimes. So we could see Brock Lesnar come back 100%. I fully believe that. But if this is truly it, what a way to end. And what a feather in the cap of Oba Femi to now be able to say this for the rest of his career, that he is the man that retired Brock Lesnar. Oba getting to say that instead of Gunther. So from that respect, I have no problem with it. And if Brock really, truly is retiring, which it feels like he is, the hug with Paul Heyman after, Brock does not show emotion like that. That's why you knew it was genuine. He can't fake that type of stuff. So Brock coming to the realization that this is it, the way he was even thanking the fans and the fans showing him love. And I know we all have, our opinions on Brock, and, I'm certainly not, I certainly wrestle, with, dealing with him back in WWE based on, his involvement in the Janelle Grant stuff and Polish Joe and him being a sex pest and all that type of stuff, but his return when he came back, if this is what he came back for, just to be back for 7 months to put over somebody in a huge way, why don't we use my retirement to, help better the future? I can't really complain about that, and I'm happy that he did that. And I'm happy that he did business. But, we also heard that when Brock came back last year that he did sign a new deal. So it's not 100% sure, if he's really retiring here. But like I said, a picture's worth 1,000 words based on Brock's, body language, his emotions and stuff. That's just stuff you can't really act your way through. Brock looked like he was really genuinely saying goodbye. And as a fan, if Brock, hypothetically, if Brock is retiring in 2026, I just hope this is it. I don't need a Gunther match at SummerSlam or a Gunther match anywhere, to be honest. I'm perfectly happy with Brock going out the way he went out here. So we will have to see if somebody else coaxes him out of retirement, or if they use a storyline reason to keep him from retiring. Maybe he wants to retire, but he can't because of circumstances, so he's got to come back for one more match. Who knows? We don't totally know that yet, but I feel, based on what we saw, that he's done, and if he is, Brock had a hell of a career. Of course, he's always going to be tied to the Janelle Grant stuff, and I really wish that he wasn't a part of that, because if he wasn't, and he had nothing to do with that, Brock would go down as easily in my top 20 favorite wrestlers of all time in terms of, his believability, and just what a beast he is. He's the most credible guy, that's ever been in WWE. And for the longest time, I was a big fan of his, but a lot of these, repetitive matches redundant matches with Roman Reigns and the 45,000 fucking German suplexes per match and the style that he kind of switched into, some of his matches were still good, but some weren't, and some were disappointing. But still, Brock, it was always a super impressive pro wrestler all the way back in 2002 when he debuted, almost exactly, or a little bit over 24 years ago now, because he debuted the night after WrestleMania 18 in 2002. So over the 24 years, he has had a great career, and I really loved him in those early days. He was just a specimen. We had never seen anyone physically like him, that believable, that credible on day one. He debuts in March or April of 2002. And by the time we get to SummerSlam, he's already defeated, Hulk Hogan, rubbing the blood on his chest, RVD winning the King of the Ring. And then he beats Brock definitively in the main event of SummerSlam there, winning the title at such a young age. And, main eventing WrestleMania the following year and doing shooting star presses and, F5ing Big Show. He's just insane. And he's like a legitimate fighter. Went to UFC, won the championship. Nobody wants to fuck with Brock Lesnar. He's somebody that nobody's going to cross or mess with in the locker room. And he's, always been a beast and a legend. And if this is it, I think that's good. We don't really need Brock anymore. And so for him to go out in the way that he did is probably, in my mind anyway, the best case scenario, what we saw tonight. So, oh, I meant to say Rock. Yeah, you mean at SummerSlam? I mean, essentially squashed him there. And the fans were happy that Rock lost. They were cheering Brock that night. He was getting all of the support from the audience. And it's been 24 years now, and now he's done. Real DJG, you don't know if Brock is done. I'm happy he did what he did and put over Oba. Yeah, I mean, the gloves and shoes in the ring, I feel like, they could find a storyline reason out of this. So I'm not calling it an official retirement yet, but I kind of hope that it is, because I almost don't know what he could do that could be better than that. As a fan, I don't need the Gunther match. I don't need that to be satisfied. I don't need that for Gunther. We got it for Oba, and I'm fine with that. So we will see. Maybe Brock comes back and has a rematch with Oba and then beats him, and Brock's not gone. Let's hope that's not the case. So anyway, that was the first match, and that was a really nice surprise that Oba Femi did go over completely clean, and it was in a match that, didn't have 50 Germans and 9 F5s. I think it was 3 Germans and 1 F5. That was it. It was short, sweet, to the point, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I was happy with that outcome there. Then it was time for the Intercontinental Championship ladder match. This one was actually really good, too. It was Penta defending against Rey Mysterio, Javon Evans, Dragon Lee, JD McDonough, and Rusev, I believe, right? And I was not terribly looking forward to this match because I didn't think it would be anything special. It's a ladder match. They're putting it on ESPN. They want the casuals to see the ladder spots and the dives. And I thought a lot of it was going to be your very basic stuff, shit that we as fans see over and over and over and over in Money in the Bank matches and other sort of, multi-man or multi-team ladder matches, just the same type of spots again and again. So this is WrestleMania, but still last night, the Jacob Fatu, Drew McIntyre unsanctioned match wasn't bad by any means. It's just, they didn't do more. They didn't treat it to me like a Mania match. Everything we saw from Drew and Jacob last night could have happened on any pay-per-view in any month during any time of the year. So I kind of thought the ladder match would be similar, but it wasn't. It actually did exceed my expectations. They had some great spots there. Of course, Javon Evans was doing all his stuff. We had all the luchadors in red, Dragon Lee and Rey Mysterio and Penta all rocking the red. Rusev taking a brutal bump on the ladder that was bridged on the outside of the ring. I really like that. Javon Evans, of course, was bouncing. He even OG cuttered Rusev off the top of the ladder from the rope, from the top rope. So Rusev's climbing up for the belt, and then Javon comes off the top rope and OG cutters Rusev off the ladder. That was a pretty cool spot. So all of the spots they were doing, I thought were better. It didn't seem like this clusterfucky type of match where a bunch of guys are standing around waiting to catch people. That's what these multi-man or multi-women ladder matches are, and I don't really like them. And I didn't really think we were going to see anything that out of the ordinary here, and we really didn't. It wasn't like the greatest ladder match ever, but it still managed to exceed my expectations. And in the end... Excuse me. In the end, I saw no reason for Penta to drop the belt here. So I'm really glad that Penta retained. Did I write down the finish here? I know. Oh, that's right. It was Javon Evans was involved in the finish. And I guess he's going up to retrieve the belt. Maybe Penta pulls him off, and Penta kind of hits like a running destroyer on him, which was really cool. There was also, we had Spanish flies. We had a Mexican destroyer on a bridged ladder, I think onto JD McDonough. We had the Rusev bump. We had the big OG cutter from Javon. Plus, Javon was also hanging at one point from the big golden hanger. I hate that too. Even the fucking thing they hang the belt from has to have WWE smeared on it, just hanging on a hook. But he's hanging from the big golden hanger thing, and then Rusev just yanks him down. So Javon, pretty much did everything we thought he would do. He was doing his dives and everything like that. He didn't kill himself, which is good. And in the end, he had a shot. He was close, but Penta came swooping in, kind of hit him with a running destroyer in the corner, and then quickly scurried up the ladder to retain the Intercontinental title. And I'm happy about that because Penta's over. WWE likes him. The fans like him. There's no real reason here to take that belt off of him. There was nobody else in the match in storyline that, was making you think, oh, it's time to give them the IC or whatever. Penta should have just retained here. I'm glad that he did. And congrats to Penta, because the IC title was retained. The U.S. title would not be. Sami Zayn versus Trick Williams. That was up next. Sami coming out to a lot of boos. Trick Williams coming out with a pretty cool entrance. He basically had his jacket was attached to basically a gigantic roll of toilet paper. And he had it attached, and as he walked to the ring, he dragged this long train with him that was at the end of, it's on a roller. So he's just unrolling this long white fabric all the way down to the ring that stretched all the way down to the ramp, and then he kind of unhitched it. So that was the extent of his entrance. Of course, he had Lil Yachty with him. Lil Yachty did the entrance for Trick when he was coming down. And I had this match wrong too, because I kind of thought that Sami, to kind of complete the process of the double turn, Sami hearing a lot of boos right now. He's acknowledging the boos, talking about them. I thought the best way to complete that process here was to have Sami do something heelish to retain the belt here over Trick Williams. I had Trick winning the title initially, when we knew he was going to get a shot at the U.S. title. I would have rather seen Mello get added to this and be a triple threat and Trick Williams win. But if it was one-on-one, I kind of wanted to see Sami win in order to get that heat, keep the belt, and then Trick can just beat him for it at Backlash or whatever. But Trick also, of course, he's a superstar. You can tell he's going to be a big deal. I can understand WWE wanting to belt him up here and give him a championship win at WrestleMania. I didn't write down the finishing sequence here. It was an okay match. Like I said, it didn't. It met my expectations for what I saw. Sami did take out Lil Yachty at one point, but in the end, I think it was just the trick shot. Trick shot to Sami for the win. Did Sami do anything super heelish? The only thing I remember him doing was kind of working over Trick a little bit outside the ring next to Trick's parents, who were both out there in white. But in the end, it was a Trick shot for the win. Trick does win the U.S. title, goes out and celebrates with his family. So very much enjoyed that. Congrats to Trick Williams, new United States champion. Still feel like WWE could have gotten Mello involved here. I feel like leaving out Mello was for no reason. This could have just been a triple threat, and you could have still given Trick his moment here. I don't understand why they didn't. But anyway, Trick is your new United States champion, and that's fine with me. That match was what it was. Nothing special, but it wasn't bad either. Then it was time for the Demon and Finn Balor street fight. So this was made a street fight, I guess, earlier on in the day, because there was... Oba called out Roman on the post show. Okay. I should at least pull that up on mute and watch it here. Let me get it pulled up. I'll have it on mute. Come on, play. What the fuck? There we go. Yeah, I see Trick right here now on the post show. Am I not live or something? Are you guys watching Oba? That might have been from earlier. But back to Balor and Dominik. There was a little segment earlier on in the day that was put out on social media, I believe. It looked like they were backstage at Allegiant Stadium. And it was Adam Pearce telling Dominik that the match tonight with the Demon is a street fight. So they kind of changed that up. There was going to be no rules in this one. Dominik had a pretty cool entrance. He came out with a bunch of luchadors, or a bunch of NXT talent in lucha masks, I should say. And then he was on this giant, throne that was kind of a combination balcony type of throne. And he was wearing Santos' mask, I guess. And then what else did he have on him? His gear was a tribute to Paraguayo. So he came out, had a pretty cool entrance. It kind of a little bit resembled John Cena's Slim Shady entrance from WrestleMania 25. So Dom had that. Demon, of course, had his Demon entrance. Good to see the Demon again, although last couple of times that the Demon has wrestled. He has lost, and specifically to Edge at 39 in that Hell in the Cell, and then he had that match with Roman Reigns where he fell off the rope, and it was just feel like the Demon is dead. So Demon absolutely had to win here. I predicted him to. Oh, we got Lash and Trick celebrating. They're dancing in front of the Vegas crowd. It is still light out, by the way, here on the West Coast. That's cool. I'm just watching the post show real quick here. They're all whooping that Trick. Anyway, we got the post show on here. I'm watching if anything crazy happens. But the Demon over Dominik in this one. It was a match much like Sami and Trick that matched my expectations. I wasn't expecting any more out of the match than what we got. We got the great entrances, obviously, but them making this a street fight allowed them to, use weapons and whatnot. And, the chairs, were introduced pretty early here. Dominik even hit a 619 with the chair on Demon's face. And there was a couple of coup de grace attempts that failed. Even a frog splash that I think Balor kicked out of. They're showing some highlights of it right here. That spot I liked with the 619. And then I think he went into the frog splash and Balor kicked out after the 619. And Balor would wind up recovering and hitting Dominik with a coup de grace on the table that was positioned in the corner. You could kind of tell that's what they were going for, especially with the positioning of the table and where it was. I'm like, okay, that's probably going to be the finish. It's going to be Finn stomping Balor, and they are showing the highlights of this match right now. And there it is. That coup de grace on Dominik was real gnarly because Balor's feet landed on his midsection, but when the table collapsed, his feet kind of came and grazed across the face of Dom. So I feel like Dominik got kicked right in the face. He looks okay here. He's being interviewed by Jackie Redmond, and I'm sure he's none too pleased. Let's hear what Dominik has to say, actually. Let's join this interview in progress.
Wrestle the Demon. I was supposed to wrestle Finn Balor. It was in the contract, Finn Balor versus Dominik Mysterio. And then Adam Pearce went over and added all these stipulations with the Demon and now with the street fight. Are you kidding me? This is uncalled for.
It's uncalled for.
Not fair. I need to go find the Judgment Day. I need to go talk to Adam Pearce.
Okay, but before, can I just get your reaction to Rhea Ripley becoming a champion?
Oregon won yesterday.
Dominik does not want to hear it from Jackie. That's funny. She tried to ask him about Rhea Ripley. He's like, get the fuck out of here. Liv Morgan won the title. That's all I care about. That was funny. All right, so Dominik is upset. He says he's got to go talk to Adam Pearce. What's he going to talk to him about? You can't reverse the decision. Do you really want any more of Finn Balor? Do you want another match with him? And Ripley is now coming out as your new women's champion. I feel really dumb for changing my pick on her. I knew she was going to beat Jade, but for some reason I decided to change my mind. Anyway, after the Demon and Dom, we have, who you're seeing on your screen if you are watching the post show right now, Rhea Ripley and Jade Cargill was up next. I, in the predictions, predicted Jade to win. I thought one of three things would happen. Either the baddie, or one of two things would happen. Either the baddies would come out there and interfere, and then Io Sky would come out to try to help accidentally cost Rhea the match. Or Bianca Belair would come out and also cost Rhea Ripley the match. But as we learned, Bianca Belair, her and Montez, and now she's pregnant. So she is not going to be a part of that match. And I kind of felt like that was going to change my prediction, but it was too late. Predictions were already in. So Ripley and Jade, not much in the way of special entrances here. Jade had a big, giant type of coat on or robe that looked like it was made out of hair, like blonde hair. So she sheds that and makes her way to the ring, and she looked great. Both these women are just... It should be illegal to be that hot. You know, people like Rhea Ripley, Jade Cargill, and Greg Morgan should not be allowed to be that sexy. It's just, it's dangerous. It's dangerous, you know? So Ripley does her entrance. She's got kind of different gear on. She's wearing white. It's supposed to be some sort of a reference to an insane asylum or a straight jacket because apparently Jade's been driving her insane. She's got a little bit different makeup on, but for the most part, she looks normal. She got the red shit under her eyes. And Ripley comes out, sings her entire song, does the arm thing, of course, and all that, and then we get the match. So everything we expected to see here, we did get. We knew we would get interference because Jade's got her baddies now, and we figured we would get Io Sky as well. Match in the ring, not bad. Another match that I think exceeded what I expected from them. I got to give Jade props. There was a lot that I thought she did in this match that was solid. You know, because she gets a lot of flack for her work, and you can definitely see it. It's visible. It's not like people are making this shit up. You know, she's got some limitations in the ring. You know, she's got the best. She's Lex Luger. She's got the greatest fucking look in the world, you know, but sometimes, you know, then the bell rings. But she's gotten better. You have seen improvements in her, and there have been moments where she's executed things really, really well in the ring over the past year or so. And, you know, there was a couple of spots here where I was watching. I remember during the watch line I was just nodding my head. I wasn't saying anything, but I was like watching Jade, and in my head I'm like going, good, that's good. You did good. You know, so I thought the match wasn't as good as the triple threat that we got last year. I don't think it was good as Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair from 39. But it was still good, and it still was acceptable for me. In the end, we did see Michin and B-Fab show up. Michin showed up first to try to get involved. Then B-Fab showed up, and as we had a feeling would happen, we saw Io Sky. So her music actually plays, and then she comes running down to the ring to take out Michin and B-Fab. And Ripley had a brilliant counter to the Jade. Jade had Ripley up for her finisher 2, maybe 3 times. And then on the third one, and I guess I didn't even know Jade has a one-winged angel move. It's called the Sandstorm, but she had Ripley up and she hit her with the one-winged angel, and I'm marking out, and Michael Cole's going, the Sandstorm. I'm like, what the fuck? It's not the Sandstorm. Anyway, must be her Sandstorm. So I was marking out for the one-wingy, and here they're showing, there's the counter right there. They're showing it right now on the post show, how she's got Ripley up for the Jaded. Ripley slips underneath her legs, almost like you would counter that into a victory roll, but she did that earlier. But instead, she slips right under, hangs on to Jade's arm as she comes through, and is able to get her into riptide position. I don't know, tangled up like a pretzel. But she was able to get her in riptide position, hit her with it after Jade had countered out of a riptide earlier. Hit Jade for the riptide, got the win, pins her and wins the championship, and celebrates with Io Sky. Now, I'm fine with that. I like Ripley more than Jade, although I am pleased with Jade's performance. You know, she was on a big stage here. You know, there's a championship match, semi-main event, night 2 of WrestleMania, and you already have a reputation of being somebody that's not the greatest worker. So, you know, when we have situations like that, all I can hope for is that the match is passable, or it's good, or they don't embarrass themselves. And they didn't. It was a fine match. I had very few issues with it. And Ripley now being the champion isn't going to please everybody. I understand that. Some people are tired of Ripley. I think Ripley is going to have to go heel at some point, because now that she's the champion again, and you've got Io Sky there, who Ripley has never defeated, you would think that, like, by default, Io is going to be an automatic contender for that championship if they can get them on the same brand, because now Ripley, you would think, has got to stay over on SmackDown now that she's the champion. And of course, Io Sky, at least right now, is on Raw. So they might want to keep them separated, you know, on their respective brands. But if they're going to keep them on TV together, I don't know how you can avoid bringing Io Sky to SmackDown and maybe giving her a title shot against Ripley. But we've already gotten the niceness between them. We already got, like, they did it at Evolution, right? And they think they had another match. So basically the big matches that Io and Ripley have had so far with Io going over, they've been essentially babyface matches. So the next time this happens, I don't think they can do that again. I think it should be heel versus babyface, unless you do a heel turn throughout the course of the match. And Io Sky, I think, is just a little bit too likable. Some people were talking tonight about, you know, Io Sky coming down and purposely costing Ripley. I'm like, I don't think the fans want to boo her. I don't think the fans want to boo Io Sky. Right now, I think it would actually be easier for the fans to boo Ripley than Io Sky. So we will see now. Ripley is now the women's champion, so she's going to stick around, I would assume, on SmackDown. They don't want to start swapping out these belts, do they? Where you got a world title and a WWE title on one hand or on one brand and the other ones on the other. You want to keep it uniform. All the WWE titles on one show, all the world titles on another show. So Ripley is going to be on SmackDown now, which is great because Damian Priest is there. And maybe they can get Io Sky over there if they want. Otherwise, we might be looking at another match between Ripley and Jade Cargill because there was a lot of interference, and I could see them running that back. You know, that we had enough one-offs here. You know, I'm not sure if Punk and Roman are going to wrestle again. Brock and Oba obviously are probably not going to wrestle again, and Jade and Rhea, they feel like they've got more of a program. They're in a title program, so they haven't already had a couple of matches. This wasn't the blow-off. This was the first match. So I think we'll probably get another one, or we might get some sort of a tag with Ripley and Io versus Jade and Michin or something. I don't know. And then maybe that's where some issues with Ripley and Io start to form. Or maybe, Io's like, hey, I can only be on SmackDown if you and me win the tag team titles, so why don't we go after those? And maybe they try to beat, maybe Ripley and Io beat Paige and Bella for the titles, and now Io can be with Ripley. I don't fucking know. We'll see where all that goes. But I have no complaints about Ripley winning the championship. It's the same thing with fans. You know, they're all kind of programmed the same way. Ripley's won a couple of titles at WrestleMania, so naturally that's going to get under the crawl a lot of wrestling fans. And she wins all the time and blah, blah, blah. But it's been so many years. I'm so sick of hearing that every time. I just tune it out. Stop saying the same shit every time. In this instance, I don't think it was really that wrong. I don't think Jade was done wrong in any way. I don't think there was any terrible booking decision made here at all, but, you know, that's the way it goes. Any wrestler, male or female, throughout the course of history, when they start winning too much, you have a pocket of fans that start saying that they're holding people down and blah, 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 because that's just the way their DNA is. But not for me. Not for me at all. After that, it was time for John Cena to come back. We got him in the opener here where he welcomed us to the show, and much like last night, we figured we would get him out here again in the same spot that he was in last night, right after the women's championship match, right ahead of the main event. He came out to announce the attendance. He did the same thing here too. He's out there to let the Allegiant Stadium crowd know that I think on this one they had 55,000 fans. So almost 51,000 last night, 55 tonight, and I think the grand total for the weekend was something like 104,000 or something like that. So they wound up, packing out pretty decent houses there. So the attendance was what it was. I don't think the fans really give a shit about the attendance. Also, in the beginning of the show when Cena came out, he said, this is the first time ever WrestleMania is airing on ESPN, and the fans booed, which I loved. I really hope WWE is hearing some of that backlash. We do not like WrestleManias with 2 hours and 15 minutes of commercials. That's bullshit. So I'm really hoping that this ESPN and WWE relationship is a terrible one. I hope by the time this media rights deal is over that these two entities hate each other. This has been a fucking disaster. I do not like the idea of the next 4 WrestleManias being packed with this many commercials. So I'm hoping the next media rights deal, they can put WrestleMania back on a platform that's not dominated by Applebee's. So Cena mentioning that and the crowd booing, I loved that. So now he's back to announce the main event. And we were saying when he was in the ring, is he going to be interrupted by anyone? Is he going to be interrupted by anyone? Who's going to interrupt him? And he was interrupted by The Miz and Kit Wilson, who want to have their WrestleMania moment. So much like last night with, what was it? With Paige and with, what else was super predictable last night? I guess the Gunther victory. Oh, yeah, with Paige winning and Braun Breaker coming back. We knew those things were going to happen. We knew Breaker was going to cost Seth, and we knew Paige was going to be the replacement Bella. Here, once The Miz and Kit Wilson showed up, you knew it was going to be Danhausen because it's already been reported that WWE did have plans for Danhausen to have an in-ring return. We knew we would get something here because last night, Bianca Belair came out and announced to the world that she's pregnant. So we knew we were going to get something here at the end of John Cena's attendance announcement. So Miz and Kit Wilson are out there. They're there to have the WrestleMania moment. Cena, doesn't even get in his face. I love that Cena is Mr. Retired Cena. He's not trying to stand up to the Miz. He's like, fine, you want your WrestleMania moment? Have at it. He just basically gets out of their way. He's like, I'm not in this anymore. Do whatever you want to do. He even shakes the Miz's hand, and then he looks over at Kit Wilson and he goes, and you are? He didn't even know who Kit Wilson was. And then, as expected and as anticipated, we started hearing Danhausen's music play, and he gets this big special entrance in like a Danhausen mobile. But before he does, he's got a whole bunch of little people in Danhausen capes and makeup. And Michael Cole, 3 different separate times, aggressively, not just saying it, but aggressively calling them midgets. They're midgets. It's the midgets. And I'm like, what the fuck? I don't think we're supposed to say that anymore. You could at WrestleMania 3. It was still fine when Bundy, put the kibosh on Little Beaver. Still sad about that. But I think since then, since 1987, people have transitioned away from that term. But Michael Cole was adamant to make sure that we knew that they were midgets. I don't know why. That just floored me. That just leveled me. I just cracked up at that. I'm like, Jesus Christ, Michael Cole. Maybe they wanted to be called that. I don't know. They all look like little honey badgers. What's the guy with the honey badger with the fucking hair? So he's got a bunch of little people. They come out, dance. It's a lot like Elimination Chamber, where he had all the female dancers, right? So these are all little Hausens. They come down there. They do a little dance. They wind up, one of them steps to Kit Wilson and punches him right into his penis. He goes down, and then Danhausen instructs all the little Hausens to pile on Kit Wilson and his penis. So they start beating him down, and the whole thing was just a beat down of Kit. It was okay, but, Danhausen is very entertaining. I love what he does, but sometimes I think don't overdo it. You don't need a whole production. That's why I think the thing at Elimination Chamber fell kind of flat, is because fans like Danhausen, but they don't need all of that. Danhausen's fun is backstage, the little things that he says. When you start getting a whole dance routine out here and stuff, and a whole big in-ring segment with that weird little song, it's okay, but I can see how the fans might grow tired of that over time. Danhausen is good in doses, not maybe so much of this. But I will say the fans didn't shit on this. They did not shit on it the way they shit on him at Elimination Chamber. And I've maintained that night they weren't shitting on Danhausen. They were shitting on WWE's decision to debut him in a crate on a pay-per-view with 4 matches on it. That's what they were booing. So here, it wasn't the same thing. It was fun. It was cute. It was a fun segment. That's what I complained about last night, is the lack of fun segments that we don't get anymore, that's been replaced by commercials and bullshit. So at least we get something. And like I said, at least nobody tore their quad, because at WrestleMania 39, The Miz was also in the ring, and he was then interrupted by Shane McMahon, who executed a leapfrog and tore his leg off. And then Snoop Dogg had to step in and finish the match for Shane. That is a sentence. Snoop Dogg had to step in and finish a match for Shane McMahon. It's like a game of Mad Libs. So everybody stayed healthy. Nobody tore their quads. Fans didn't boo it. And for that reason, I can live with it. But the fans certainly don't give a shit about the attendance. They're not going to applaud that. WWE acted so desperate, to get, these numbers where they want them. They're so desperate to not have a bad quarter. God forbid. They want to milk every dollar they can out of every moment. And it's ruining WrestleMania. But at least this was tolerable. Of course, Danhausen, we love. He had the Blimphausen flying around Allegiant Stadium. He was up in the Goodyear blimp. Danhausen's antics are very fun. I personally love Danhausen. Not everybody does. I do. And this was okay, too. I didn't really have any issue with it, even though it was a little bit silly and a little bit dumb. But hey, everyone's quads are intact. That's a win. After that, it is time. We talked about it in the opening here. CM Punk, defending his World Heavyweight Championship against Roman Reigns. Let's talk entrances. Roman, they got a piano out there. And I remember at 39, they had a piano thing for him too. They got a piano and like an opera singer and a guy with the big drums. So they start, and Roman's got that big, powerful drum intro to his theme, his new theme. So you go, the drums start going, and then he comes out to his old theme. And shit, help me out now. Because when he was coming out, I said during his entrance, I'm like, okay, he has his old theme. When he wins, or if he wins, I wonder if they'll play his old theme. So will you tell me in the chat if they did or not? Or I'm sorry, his new theme? Like when he won, was it the new Roman theme? But the entrance was the old theme, right? So Roman comes out to his old theme. He's all by himself. By the way, he looks in tremendous shape. I mean, if he keeps working out, he might one day look as good as me if he sticks with it. But he looked in tremendous shape. Best shape I've ever seen him in. And he's in, there was kind of a story being told visually. Like right at the beginning, he's coming out by himself. Coming to the ring by himself. Nobody around. No Heyman with him. All he's got is his ufalafa around his neck. So then he gets in the ring, and then it's time for CM Punk's entrance. Now, Punk, a couple weeks ago, we talked about this. He teased on social media, I think on Instagram, a picture of himself standing on the roof of something in Las Vegas, and clearly it was Allegiant Stadium, and I think it had the caption "radiate," which is a word in the lyric of the AFI song that he used, I guess, in Ring of Honor. He used it once in AEW in his match, I think, against MJF. And so we had a feeling that they were going to use that here, and they did. So I forget the name of it. What's it called? Miseria something or other. Anyway, AFI song. And they do a whole video package. And Roman's, too. Roman's entrance was showing all the members of the Samoan family up on the screen. So then Punk is kind of showing him, as a kid and coming through the ranks and growing, into who he is now. And they play that AFI song all the way until he gets to the ramp. Or gets to basically Gorilla, I suppose, even though you didn't really see Gorilla. And then the song stops, and he walks out to the entrance there. There's no lights, no nothing, no music, and he just kneels down, and he does the thing, and then he just yells out, "It's clobbering time," and then Cult of Personality starts. So both men had pretty cool entrances, I think. They weren't overly elaborate, but they didn't need to be, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. Who said that last night? Somebody said I like it a lot last night. Who the fuck was that? Who said I like it a lot? I forgot who said that, but we laughed about it. Anyway, so now it's match time. We get the introductions, and here we go. Slow start, collar and elbow tie-ups, feeling each other out, that type of thing. And it was almost right off the bat. I felt like they were kind of telling you that, hey, this is going to be kind of a standard match. We're thinking Usos. We're thinking Pat McAfee. We're thinking The Rock. We're thinking, we could see some interference or some sort of a finish where one guy gets help to beat the other. That's the story that Punk has been reiterating to Roman over and over again. You can't do anything without your cousins. You can't do anything without your family. So if the story was here to tell that Roman can, in fact, do that, then that's what they did. And I can't give enough credit to both guys. I was worried that if they did a match like this, that it wouldn't live up. It wouldn't be good. It wouldn't be that good in between the ropes. I got to give Punk more credit. I like Punk. He's tremendous. I think he's the best just overall wrestling character in the business. He's so great at telling his story and selling these matches. And there's nobody on the mic like him, but, physically, he's almost as old as I am. He's never really been that light on his feet. Even when he was young, he had lead in his ass. And, Punk, physically just isn't as good, but he also has what a lot of people don't, and that is years of experience. And a lot of times when you start slowing down physically, you are more knowledgeable experience-wise, and you know how to work within the parameters of what you do. Hogan and Rock, Hulk Hogan, by the time him and Rock faced at WrestleMania 18, Hogan was unbelievably past his prime, way past it, and people are going to talk about that match forever. So you can work around physical limitations. And as long as Punk was going into this match healthy, which he did, I thought they had a chance to really, pull something off here. So I feel bad for not giving Punk enough credit, thinking that they were going to need interference, that there's no way the Night 2 main event is just going to be one guy versus another guy with one guy winning and then celebrating with the belt and pyro. And that's what we got. And you know what? It was good. It was a good main event. It was a good main event between two world champion caliber wrestlers. And I enjoyed it. Now, I don't have all the spots written down here, but they were all over the place in terms of, the wrestling and the brawling and the taunting, a lot of taunting going on throughout the match, a lot of smiling. After one guy would take the other down, they would smile. A lot of smiling here and there. It did start to get a little bit violent. They were brawling on the outside of the ring. Roman was laying on the table at one point, and Punk was going to go for the big dive, but they stalled on that. Roman, at one point, hung CM Punk up in a tree of woe, but basically on the other side of the ring, or on the outside of the ring. So he's hanging over the apron, and then Roman comes in with 3 upside-down Superman punches to Punk's face, and then he dislodges the steps, and he takes the steps and he rams them right into Punk's face, and we were watching it, and I instantly said, he's busted open. You could see it instantly form on his head. It was just like the Adam Copeland belt shot at Dynasty when, I don't know if it was Cash or Dax, but they caught him with the AEW tag title, and the minute it hit his head, you just see this gunshot looking hole open up and blood just streaming down his face. So Randy Orton, well, I guess Copeland at Dynasty, Randy Orton and Cody last night, and CM Punk tonight, all of them busted open hard way. I'd prefer them to blade, to be honest. Actually, no, Randy bladed. Pretty sure Randy bladed because the camera was off of him for a long time before he turned up bloody. But Roman and Cody were busted open legit. Cody's got staples. Cody's got a bruised or broken orbital bone and a swollen shut eye. He looks like shit. He looks worse than Liv Morgan. So he's a mess. So now Punk is busted open. He was already bleeding from the mouth. And I really liked the story of the exhaustion. I liked the understanding and the acknowledgement from both guys that they are in the fight of their life. They had a lot to say about each other and their toughness and the resolve going into this, but you could tell that both, the story at least I think WWE is trying to tell, is both men becoming believers of the other. And they were kind of, slowly hinting to that by the time we got to the tail end of the build and some of the things that Roman and Punk were saying about each other in the sit-down interviews that they did, I think, respectively with Cole and with Graves, and inside of the issues with each other and in between the lines, there was subtle compliments, and Punk understanding that, Roman is a star, and Roman understanding that, Punk is kind of a different type of cat. So there's that slow kind of understanding that I gotta go into this match respecting my opponent. And Punk even said, he goes, I don't mind if you don't respect me, but I do mind if you disrespect me. So tonight was about earning the respect, and I think both guys did. The only thing I might have liked here is maybe Punk shaking his hand, maybe, or reluctantly shaking his hand, or maybe not even doing that, maybe just kind of staring back at him. I think at WrestleMania 40, when Rollins lost to Drew, right before Drew coughed it up to Priest, and Rollins was kind of giving Drew this little nod on the outside of the ring, good job. He was emotional, upset about losing the title, but at the same time, Drew was just fighting like I was. He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't cheat. He didn't steal the belt from me. He beat me. As devastated as I am about that, I have to at least acknowledge, you were the better man. And so maybe Punk doing that would have been nice. I don't know, but it was enjoyable and I think refreshing to know that they can accomplish what they accomplished without having to go in the direction of overbooking. I was worried that WrestleMania 40 was going to set this new precedent or this tone, and fans were going to expect 19 people to interfere in every single WrestleMania main event, and I didn't want to see that. And so the fact that they kept it all in the ring here was quite a nice surprise, I thought. And both guys attempting each other's finishers, Punk, I think, hitting the spear, Roman hitting a GTS, these guys kicking out of everything. There were 2 or 3 different times in the match where they're both just kind of laying there, spent, throwing haymakers, just back and forth, exchanging chops, exchanging right hands, both guys, screaming at the other to hit me again, that type of thing. They were really, really hammering home that both of these guys were taking each other and pushing each other to the furthest limit that their bodies can go. And Roman was realizing that maybe he should have had a little bit more respect for Punk, and Punk is, realizing that, Roman Reigns isn't that same boy that he's been calling out in his promos, and both men coming to that realization. So Punk, after, we got both guys, Roman with the guillotine, Punk with the anaconda vice. I think they both locked these submissions in on each other twice each. Roman, of course, or Punk, of course, kicking out of the spear. Roman kicking out of the GTS. And I think both guys even exchanged finishing moves as well. But in the end, it was one final spear. I didn't even catch the finishing sequence of the match, or I didn't write it down anyway. It was one. Where the fuck is it? Damn it! That one final spear took out Punk and ended the match right then and there, and Roman Reigns wins the World Heavyweight Championship. So that isn't surprising, but like I said, the way the match went was. And I'm trying to pull up the... there it is right here. Of course, you have to sit through an ad when you're trying to do a replay. Oh, and I didn't mention either, Punk did... It was shortly after that, I believe, when Punk went through the table. That's when we got to the finish here. Here we go. I got it pulled up. Yeah, so they're just... Oh, I've got the Spanish on. I've got the Spanish on. Okay, so yeah, it was just the one more spear. And that's another good thing I have to say is how Punk was taking these spears. All right, so it was just that one final spear shortly after the table bump with both guys just kind of looking at each other. I love that I pulled up the Spanish version. Oh, yeah, and then the GTS there, that's kind of what led to the finishing sequence there, is that Punk hit Roman with the GTS, and then Roman kind of felt back into him, and then Punk got up to go for the second one, and then he kind of collapsed under his own weight, and that allowed Roman to execute that final spear and get the win. But the spear that he hit Punk with earlier on in the match was also very good. He hit him very square, very flush, planted his face and upper body into the mat, and the finishing spear looked good too, the one that led to the finish. So all in all, really good match. I'm pleasantly surprised with the main event. I don't think it's going to go down as the greatest WrestleMania main event of all time or anything, but I'm talking about my expectations of the match. If we didn't get any interference, would the match in the ring be passable, acceptable, or main event worthy to me? And it was. It absolutely was. So props to both guys for delivering a main event match one-on-one without any bullshit that was possible and solid, or passable and salad. Passable and solid. Y'all want a passable salad? It was passable, more than passable, very solid main event, and being able to keep it just the two of them is kind of a nice change. When was the last time we got that? What the hell happened at WrestleMania 38? What was the main event in that? Well, that was Roman and Brock too, right? So there probably wasn't a ton of interference in that, but I feel like 39 had all the interference, 40 had a bunch of interference, of course, last year with the Travis Scott shit, so this was just a match in the ring, and I'm trying to think of the last time we had that. 37 was the triple threat. I guess you'd have to go back to the Performance Center, WrestleMania at 36, to get a straight-up man versus man match with a winner and a loser and literally nothing else happening. Maybe 38, though. I don't recall really the match with Roman and Brock at 38. I just know Roman beat him. I just don't remember how, or how much interference Heyman had in that match or whatnot. But to be able to pull off a match like that when I didn't think they would be able to, I think is impressive, and both guys deserve credit for this. If you look at that image right here, if you look right above CM Punk's forehead, that guy right there in the lapels there or whatever, he was on commentary for some reason during, I think it was Jade Cargill and Rhea Ripley's match. And I guess, I don't know if he won a contest or if he paid for this honor. They introduced him, Adam something, and he was going to be on commentary, and then you forgot about him because he didn't say a word. I don't think he said a word Art Donovan said more than he did. Tito. Hey. Tito, come here. Tito's messing with the door. So that guy right there, he did commentary for some reason and said absolutely nothing. I thought I'd bring that up. But Roman Reigns is your winner, celebrated with the title, and now we will have to see what kind of schedule Roman Reigns is going to have. Is he going to be on TV a lot? Is he going to be going back to that part-time bullshit where we're not going to see him except for on pay-per-views? He's going to miss he's probably not even going to work Backlash. We probably won't even see him until Saudi Arabia. Let me go retrieve my cat. There we go. Say hi to Tito. He just took a big fat shit in the litter box, and whenever he does that, he wants to go out and roam, but he's trapped in here with me for a little while longer. Stay here, buddy. So I'm curious, what kind of schedule, Roman Reigns is going to work. Is he going to go back to being that part-time thing, or is he going to work, really, really hard until SummerSlam and drop the title? There have been talks over the past couple of days about a Roman Reigns and Gunther SummerSlam match. And if it looks like the Brock Lesnar thing is now out, which we're hoping it is, and there isn't going to be a Gunther and Brock Lesnar match, and Brock just retired tonight, then Gunther and Roman might be the plan for SummerSlam. And I actually kind of like that because they have not faced yet, right? We have not gotten Gunther and Roman Reigns in a program, and I think that's your next logical move after this. Roman Reigns also has a movie schedule. There's been rumors that he's going to be filming something. There have also been rumors about, look at Tito. You see him? Look at him. Hey, buddy. You want to come up and say hi to everybody? And there's also been talk about CM Punk and maybe AJ Lee. Since both of them did drop their titles here, they could be taking some time off as well. And at least for CM Punk, his would be much deserved. Now, AJ Lee is already an extreme part-timer, so she doesn't need any time off. But Punk certainly could use some, and I gotta say, I can't be happier with Punk's run. When he won that title, when they had to kind of pivot and put the title on him after Seth Rollins' injury, my biggest question is, can Punk stay healthy? As Tito is trying to play with everything here. Can Punk stay healthy through his run, or are we going to have to strip him of the title too? He's injury prone as well, and he stayed healthy through all of it and was able to deliver in all of his matches, and it looks like he had a pretty safe match here with Roman Reigns that he came out on the other side of unscathed. So if he is going to take time off, he has certainly earned it because somebody of his age and the injuries that he's had over the past couple of years, dating back to the AEW days where he had gotten hurt a couple of times, and then as soon as he gets to WWE, he hurts himself immediately. And, he misses all that time until finally coming back, and he's been relatively healthy ever since. So that is good. If Punk is taking a little bit of a hiatus here, good for him. But one thing that he did say to Cody Rhodes on Friday is that win, lose, or draw, he and Cody will be on the show on Monday. Or I think that was just like he meant we'll be here. We're not going to go take time off or be part-timers. But Cody apparently is not cleared, and Punk is now not champion. So we will see if they have any sort of an in-ring interaction tomorrow, or if they discuss what happened to the both of them respectively, because CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes is the main event I want for next year's WrestleMania on night 2, WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia. So Punk and Punk and Cody is the match I want there. So we will see if they speak to each other or have any interaction with each other at all on Monday Night's Raw tomorrow. By the way, hi, buddy. It's not time yet. Please sit down. Here, do you have food here? Luckily, I have some food. Here, come here. Eat your food. Here. Yeah. Give him a little bit of food to shut him up. So tomorrow, we will be here to do a watch-along. I thought we would just do a review, but I think we'll keep the party rolling tomorrow night. We'll do a Raw After Mania watch-along and review, and we will see the fallout here. We will see what Roman is going to do, what Roman is going to talk about, if they're going to set up an immediate rematch with CM Punk, or if Roman is going to immediately move into a program with somebody else, or if he's just going to stay off TV, and he's going to miss Backlash completely. We don't really know yet, but I hope that Roman is a part of it, because when he's champion, sometimes he's not on TV a lot. So one thing I would tell the fans to rest easy about, because a lot of people were, even prior to the match, were saying, oh, I don't want Roman Reigns to win, so he holds the title for 5 years again. That's not going to happen. It's funny that that's such a bad memory for people that fans think that if Roman wins again, he's going to be champ for 4 years. No. He's probably going to be champ until SummerSlam, and if that's the case, I'm fine with that. Unless they do keep that world title on him for an entire year, and he faces The Rock for it next year at WrestleMania 43. Now, if we are going to get The Rock and Roman Reigns next year, then I don't think you need a title on the line because that's going to be Rock's retirement match. So Roman, I think, will hold this title for a lot less time than he's held others. I think this is going to be one of his shorter runs, and I think it could end as early as SummerSlam, but probably not earlier than that. So do not fear. You are not going to have 4 birthdays of Roman Reigns being World Heavyweight Champion. You have another champion on another show. You got another champion in AEW. His run shouldn't infuriate you. Maybe like his other one did when he continuously was winning these matches. This is a different scenario. This is a different Roman. He doesn't have the bloodline. A lot of his matches and his victories on pay-per-view that was driving the fans so crazy. Part of the reason it was driving them so crazy is because they were all booked the same way. Same type of shit, same type of bloodline interference. That, plus the longevity of his run, I think was really wearing on the fans' patience. And of course, fans just cannot handle it. They do not have the mental ability to see wrestlers win a lot. Whenever they do, they turn on them. So Roman, there's going to be the discussions out there of, oh, Roman again, a part-timer, blah, blah, blah. I might agree and have some of the same fears, if this was going to be another 4-year title run, but it's not going to be. It's going to be way shorter than that, and I think we can all handle whatever Roman is going to do with that belt. Plus, Roman needed to win that belt. He needed to. He needed to be World Heavyweight Champion. WWE needs that in its lineage. So I guess now Roman and Seth, I think, are the only people. Yeah. Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins are the only people to hold the WWE, the Universal, and the World Heavyweight title, right? I think it's just Roman and Seth. Who else has had that ugly-ass red purse? Yeah, nobody else. Goldberg and, so I guess, just Goldberg. He's held 2 of the 3. Who else has been World Heavyweight Champion? Seth. Drew. Drew. No, Drew was WWE Champion. Drew wasn't Universal. Drew was WWE, so I don't even think Drew is in here either. Yeah, anyway, you guys tell me in the chat. Overall, I'm going to grade tonight's Night 2 a B. Not a B+, not a B-. I'll give it a B. Last night's show, I'm giving a D. So for the weekend, when you average them together, C. C is where we're at. I'm going to give the overall weekend a C grade, just like Andreas Hale would have. Last night was a D. Tonight was a B. Nothing was an A. I don't think you're ever going to get an A again when you are giving us 2.5 hours of goddamn Applebee's commercials. You will never receive an A grade out of me for that, unless we start separating the matches from the show. Just grade the matches individually. I can give a match an A, but I can't give the whole show an A if they're sticking restaurant chain commercial ads up my ass. I don't really like that. So that concludes my notes. Let's go to the chat. Let's talk to you guys, see what you guys are saying about all of this. Again, if anything crazy is happening on the post show, please let me know. I got a lot of super chats to answer, so I want to make sure I get to my master list here so I don't miss anyone, and we will start rolling through all of these. And I want to thank you again to everyone who was here tonight and yesterday for the watch along and review, and everybody who was here Friday night as well for the SmackDown review and the Hall of Fame watch along, which is sitting on about 20,000 views right now. So a lot of people tuned into our Hall of Fame watch along late night. We'll definitely do that again next year. And we're going to be at it again tomorrow as we watch Monday Night Raw, the Raw after Mania. Hopefully it will be a good one. But let me just find my master list of supers here so we can properly answer them. There we go. All right, where was the last one that I got to? Oh, there's a bunch. All right, I think we're going to start off. Oh, yeah, there's a lot. Okay, well, thank you for all the support, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you for all these super chats. You guys are awesome. It really is fun watching these shows. Last night was so bad. And I had a big write-up on Twitter about, my feelings on WrestleMania, and it got an overwhelming positive response. But some people are like, oh, stop complaining or whatever. You just don't like the show. You just like to complain. I'm like, you don't know me. You don't know me. Watch my reaction. Last night, did we not have fun? The show was ass, but we still had fun because there was 300 of us hanging out together, watching wrestling, not taking everything too seriously. It's kind of fun to watch these shows after the fact. When you collect your thoughts and you formulate some takeaways and some opinions on the show, those were mine. But that doesn't mean I'm sitting here hate watching it. We're having a good time. I'm with my community, with my homies, my family. It's fun. Even the bad shows can be fun sometimes. So, last night, even though the show was awful, I still think we had a fair amount of fun here on the channel, did we not? And I think we did tonight as well. And that's what it's all about. Wrestling, especially bad wrestling shows are actually easier to watch if you're with people. So I'd rather have a whole community of people here watching the show with me so I don't have to experience the suck all alone. At least we have each other for support, shoulders to cry on and whatnot. So, even though the shows, are bad and WrestleMania isn't what it used to be, we still enjoy doing it. We're still going to do our watch-alongs. We still watch wrestling together. This is a content-creating channel, and we're always going to be here creating wrestling content. WWE, AEW, whatever we're doing, we always tend to have fun here. But one thing I did learn is that, AEW, I believe, does do pay-per-view better. They do not do everything better than WWE, but they do that better because you get a match followed by a match followed by a match. You're paying for these shows. You're paying $40 or $50, depending if you have Max or not. You'd want to get your money's worth, and they make an effort to give you that money's worth. Here, WWE doesn't seem too worried about giving you your money's worth. They want to make sure they can maximize every dollar out of you. They want to get their money's worth out of you. They want to get your money and squeeze every nickel they can out of every segment and everything they do. And a lot of times that really perverts your show. And we see that in real time. But at least tonight's night 2 was better than night 1. Garrett Osborne, I think you're the next person that I owe because I got the 3 super chats earlier from Hollywood Guy. Thank you for the 5. Night 2 was an A- for me, but that's because I wanted Punk to win. Every match dwarfed night 1, Danhausen segment included. Well, I'm glad that people aren't shitting on the Danhausen segment. I thought maybe some would. You gave it an A-. That's really good. Maybe I was a little harsh. I'm still sticking with my B. But sounds like you would have given it an A+ had CM Punk retain the title. And he is who I picked too as well. Sorry. Whenever I cough or clear my throat, I have a cough button. I never hit it. I made sure I did it that time. Next one up is Potent. Thank you for the $2. Night 2 saved Mania. Roman and Punk is a classic. A. All right. We got more A's. Mike Witt, appreciate the 5, bro. I just hope Roman doesn't hold the belt for 1,000 days again. He won't. You wanted to create buzz. Roman should drop it to Oba tomorrow night on Raw. There you go. I like that. Now, last night I pitched Becky Lynch doing that. Because, of course, Becky won. Oh, no, she won again. I'm like, just chill. She ain't holding the belt for 4 years. She's going to drop it in a matter of weeks. Ain't a big deal. I would love if Becky came out tomorrow on top of the world and issued an Intercontinental Open Challenge, and someone like Sol Ruka from NXT comes out and beats her for it. I would love that. I might like even more this idea of Roman Reigns losing to Oba, but, Roman, he won here on his own. I don't feel like Roman is going to... I feel like for Oba to come out and beat him on Raw, you are going to have like cocky Roman coming out to the ring. I won the belt. I smashed Phil. His old bloodline persona. Nobody can touch me. I'm the fucking greatest. As a matter of fact, I'm so great, I could beat any piece of shit that walks down here to this ring right now. And then Oba Femi comes out and squashes him. I don't know if that's going to be Roman's demeanor. I think Roman is going to have to. He's going to have no choice but to acknowledge that Punk took him to the limit. I don't think he's going to come out there with overwhelming arrogance and confidence. He's going to talk his shit, and he's going to say that he beat Punk, but I think he's also going to acknowledge that, maybe Phil is a little bit tougher than I gave him credit for. So in order for Oba to come out, Roman's going to have to be some like cocky heel type of guy on top of the world, too stupid to notice that this could be a very, very bad decision. I just don't think Roman would be that dumb, knowing that you've got a locker room back there that consists of people like Femi and Gunther. I think that would be really quick. And I don't see it excuse me, as being a realistic possibility. But when it comes to Raw after Manias, man, many of them have really sucked over the last few years, and it would be nice to restore them to some of those, big moments that we're used to, and having a big title change like that could do it. Although I think it's more likely we see that with Becky Lynch and the Intercontinental title rather than the Roman belt. Luke McAllister, appreciate the 10 from you. Much better tonight, Greg. Sorry I can't stick around. It is 2:30 a.m. in Scotland, and you have to be up in 3 hours for work. God damn. 5:30 in the morning you work? Jesus Christ, I could never do it. I stay up till 5:30 in the morning. I could never work that early. Thank you, Luke, for sticking around tonight for as long as you could. Hope you get a little bit of sleep. Thank you for being here last night as well. Always appreciate the one and the only, the immortal, Luke McAllister. Ryan Adams, thank you for 10 as well. Funny what happens when you let two of your best just wrestle to see who the best on that very night is. I hope we get another Roman Punk match. Show overall gets an A- from you. Okay, so I'm undershooting this here. I'm still thinking these commercials are pissing me off so much, so I'm not willing to give this an A, but there have been a lot of A's coming from y'all tonight, so that is good. Ruben, I'm glad you've got an update on our predictions. They're not good this year, dude. I might have to put $2 for every win this year because I don't want to have a donation that's less than last year's. But Ruben, appreciate the 5 drop there at Mania. Good mic work, went 8-5. That is bad. That is abysmally bad. 5 matches wrong. I should have gotten 2 max wrong, so I'm embarrassed. I usually perform way better than that. 8-5 on WrestleMania, taking my predictions for the year to 15-6 for WWE and 15-7 for AEW. So I'm pretty consistent there between the two, but I think I'm behind where I was last year. Last year, I think I had at least 3 pay-per-views where I got every match right. So I was on a roll. But this year, I'm starting slow. So my next predictions will be better, I promise. Potent's got 2 more for us. Both nights combined, B-. Night 2 carried. Night 2 carried. Maybe I'll up my my grade for the 2 nights to a C+, based on the strength of tonight. Tomas, good to see you, bro. Thanks for coming back. Appreciate the 5 from you. Main event was tremendous, but it needed more Pat McAfee. Night 2 delivered a lot more than night 1. I thought for sure McAfee was trolling us today with the social media post that I think was made by his wife, of him like overlooking the Vegas in his bathroom, and she's like, this is the first time since 2017 that my babe doesn't have to be in wrestling, and I'm like, oh, fuck. That means he's coming out tonight. And also, we can't forget about Friday night. He signed something on Friday night, so I was really worried that whatever that shit was with Nick Aldis was going to bring him out here in the main event. So I'm very glad that he was not here. Super Fluffy Toaster, good to see you. Appreciate the 5 from you. I'll give it a B. Good show, but nothing special except for the main event. It's just like last night was so bad, made tonight feel like a masterpiece. I know. That's why I'm careful not to grade this show too high, because I think it was just so exponentially better than last night that, maybe fans are overgrading this, but tonight was good. I really enjoyed tonight a lot more than last night, and I feel like the only spots that were a little bit dead was just, not getting anything too crazy out of, Sami and Trick or Dom and Demon or whatever. But overall, the matches were way better than last night, and they over-delivered, and that's what's important. Mike Witt's got a couple more next. First one is 10. The only thing I'm a little worried about is this. To all the people cheering for Roman getting the belt, do you remember how stale his last run with the belt got at the end? Just saying, yes, but I don't think it's going to be that again. I don't think Roman's title run is going to resemble the run that he was on before. It's been 2 years, right? WrestleMania 40, he lost the title. So he's been without the belt for 2 years now. He doesn't have the support of the bloodline and everybody else and Paul Heyman like he did before. So it's very different. That was 2 years ago. It doesn't seem like that, does it? But it was 2 years ago. And now he's a solo act, holding a belt that he's never held. He's on Raw now instead of SmackDown. And at the end of that run, I think our biggest issue was how he was winning all those matches. I think some of that shit like Clash at the Castle was solo, and then WrestleMania 39 was solo, and my nose is itching like crazy. And WrestleMania 39 and a lot of those like repetitive type of finishes that they were doing was what was giving us that stale feeling, was really wearing on our patience. This is not going to be the same thing here. Even if Roman successfully defends this title a couple of times or a few times, which I actually expect him to, I don't think it's going to be. I think the fans need to try to avoid making their brains think that it's the same thing as last time. Just because Roman Reigns wins his next title defense does not mean that we are staring down the barrel of a 4-year run, or he's going to have a type of run that gets super stale. I think this run is going to be more along the lines of the typical runs we're seeing, holding the belt as long as Punk did, few months or whatever. Also, you got Braun Breaker right there on deck. You got Gunther and Braun Breaker and Oba Femi all on Raw. All on Raw. So Roman has got some challengers. Hopefully he will not run through all these guys and beat them all. But, when you think about Oba Femi, how can Oba Femi's character not want a match with Brock Lesnar? With Roman Reigns. That might actually be Roman's first opponent. It might be Oba. How do you not give Oba Femi a title shot after that dominant win over Brock? I think you give him a shot even before you give Gunther a shot. So we'll have to see. But we have a big match set for SummerSlam. Most likely it's going to be Roman versus Gunther or Roman versus Oba for sure. Maybe even Roman versus Breaker. So he's got some opponents. He's got some guys to work with that's not the same old shit. There's very little about Roman being champion and the landscape that surrounds him that makes me feel like it's similar at all to when he was champion 2 years ago. It's very different. So, yes, his last run wore on the patience of some fans, pushed them to their limits with that stuff. But this isn't that run. It's not the same run. And then Mike tells us that Oba called out Roman on the post show. That I missed. I tried to pull it up. I did not see it, but I'm sure it's on social media. If anybody has a clip of Oba calling out Brock and you want to tag me in it, please do. I'll look at it. Ryan said the same thing with a $2 super chat that Oba called out Roman. Stone Cold 10X has got 5. There is a time and place for new guys. This was the time and place for Oba. Well done. Yeah, like they didn't miss the mark. If it would have been an F5 and a victory for Brock, that would have put a damper on the entire show. I think that would have just been a little bit too much for fans, and they would have deemed night 2 a failure before it even started. I'm sorry, Tito. I think when I picked him up, I got cat hair on my nose or something. Sorry, it's just driving me crazy. I keep grabbing my nose like it's itchy, but there's nothing on there. I feel like there's a hair on my nose and it's just tickling the shit out of me. Anyway, next one was from Ryan. That's the final one. $2 from Ryan. Roman, part-timer, you're seeing me all summer. Is that what he said? Is that what Roman said? Okay, good. And I have a feeling we're going to have to. Like, Roman can't stay off TV for 3 months if he's going to be that World Heavyweight Champion. A lot of that also is what Punk was bringing up in the promos. You're a part-timer. You don't do shit. You sit on your ass. Me and Cody, we're here every week. So Punk proved Roman wrong in this match. Punk took Roman to the limit. Roman did not think Punk could take him to that limit, and he did. And he proved him wrong. So I think Roman might prove Punk wrong by saying, no, I am going to be here every week. I'll be right back. All right. Whatever is on my nose is off now. Just wiped it off. It's just driving me crazy. So I think Roman being on television, at least for most of the weeks, not every week, but most weeks throughout the summer or for whatever the duration of his run is going to be, is something we need to see. Otherwise, it's going to prove CM Punk right. You're never here. You don't do shit. So, and this is a chance for Roman to fix this with the crowd too, because a lot of like what Mike said and what other people said, the concern maybe or the worry now that Roman is champion because of all the bad memories his last run has brought up, this is a chance for Roman to fix that as well. Roman can see to it that I want to make sure this run doesn't wear on the patience of fans. Now, number one, the first thing that's going to happen is that he's not going to have the belt for that long. He is not going to hold it for 4 years. I don't think he's going to hold it for 1 year. I think he's going 6 months on this max, unless they try to tie in him being champion all the way to next year at WrestleMania. But Roman doesn't work a full-time schedule. I cannot see him. They're not going to do that again with this championship. Raw is 3 hours on Netflix. They don't have time for your champion just to be off TV for months at a time. And if you are going to have a champion like that, he's not going to hold the belt for very long. So Roman isn't going to recreate the bloodline run on Raw. Or is he? Could we still see that? What if his first title defense is against Femi and he gets the Usos and maybe Solo Sikoa or some MFT guys or Sami Zayn to come out and help him, and he's going to basically just recreate the entire Bloodline faction right there on Raw, and we're going to do the whole thing again. I find that to be highly unlikely. I don't think that's going to happen. All right, there is like a ghost in here just tickling my nose. So I'm not too concerned about that being a reality. I don't think WWE wants to go back to that well. A lot of fans thought they were. The minute the Usos got in the ring with those guys and started bringing up the past and the bloodline and stuff, we thought that not only we were going to see a bloodline reunion at WrestleMania, but we might see a bloodline rules match. And again, we didn't. This was a standard match with standard rules. The referee really let them go with the table bumps and everything, but it was still a standard match. So we didn't get what we were worried we were going to see. So that's a positive as well. All right, let me get back to the regular chat here. Punk may not get to 43. I think he will. Mike, appreciate the 10. Thanks for 2 great streams. Still my favorite YouTuber around. Next year, Greg Gagne is going to be the main event of night 2. I'd be fine with that. Seriously, though, you are the best, Greg. Thanks, Mike. You're the best, too. Thanks for hanging out for a lot of hours. Try to be here tomorrow if you can. We're going to be back at it. And then 1 week from tonight, we have to figure out what kind of watch-along to do. So, yeah, we got to do that, too. We'll be back this weekend. Super Fluffy, appreciate the 5. All this part-time crap, we're going to fix that. Okay, so Roman is on the post show right now. Let's turn that on. Where's the fucking post show? Is it on YouTube? It's probably on YouTube. God, what is going on with my nose? There's the post show. Oh, it's already done. There's Roman right there. Okay. So Roman is basically saying that he's not going to be part-time. He's going to be around, and he's going to be around for the summer. Cool. All right, I'll take a look at that later, but Roman is there with the championship. That's pretty cool. All right, well, I think that's going to do it from you guys. Thanks again for quite the weekend. It's been many, many hours of streaming, and it was a lot of fun, like it always is. We always have a blast doing this, and tonight was no different, so thank you for another great WrestleMania weekend. This is the 15th WrestleMania that we have experienced together on YouTube, or at least since I've been doing YouTube. We've only been doing watch-alongs for about the last 5 or 6, but this is my 15th WrestleMania covering it on YouTube, and I can't believe it's been that many. And next year is going to be in Saudi Arabia, which sucks. But we are not done. Keep a lookout later on tonight. I'm going to post a link for tomorrow's Raw review. Or I'm sorry, Raw watch-along. We're going to be here to watch Raw, and we'll keep it going even longer. I think what I'll do as well, since I never pushed out last night's review to the podcast feed, what I'll do is I'll combine last night's and tonight's and upload them into one long podcast if you want to listen on the podcast sites. I'll put those up for you. So anyway, thanks again, guys. Do me a favor if you don't mind. If you haven't hit the like button, do that on your way out the door. I hope you guys have a great rest of your Sunday evening as you continue to process WrestleMania 42 and continue to watch what all the other content creators are saying about the show and the fallout. And we're going to turn right around and do it again tomorrow. You guys have a great rest of your night. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll be catching y'all tomorrow. Peace.